adjustment of status. If you are trying to adjust your status to a green card status, there are certain mistakes that must be avoided early on in the process. And in this video, I'll talk about those mistakes and I'll talk about how you can avoid them so that you can set yourself on a right path for success. Remember that we are trying to get you a green card by any legal means necessary and available to us. And I promise, once we get there, we will make sure that we send you that green card by way of express. And if you want next day shipping, you must provide the available means for it. So meaning that you have to pay for shipping and handlings. That's just fair game, my friend. Bijoux.ngwanda here, immigration lawyer in the DC metropolitan area. If you're new to my channel, please go ahead and subscribe. If you're not new, welcome back. Thank you for subscribing, and please don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos. And if you enjoy those type of content, please go ahead and share, like, and don't forget to comment below. Let's get right into it. AOS, adjustment of status. The way we're going to approach this subject, we are going to divide it into 5 categories. Okay, 5 categories of people that are set to adjust their status. Okay, today's video I'll talk about F1 visa holders. I'll talk about J1, J2 visa holders. I'll talk about asylum seekers. I'll talk about B1 visa holders, like visitors. And then I'll talk about the DV lottery winners. Let's start with F1 visa holders. Okay, remember, when you get in the US with a F1 visa, a student visa, there's a dual requirement. Basically, you tell the embassy at the consular processing that you are going to the US to study, and once you're done with the study, you intend to go back. Okay, pretty much you met those the dual requirement, dual intent requirement. Of course, you don't have a double intent to just sneak in and stay. Okay, so, and once you get here, there are certain rules that you have to follow. You have to, at any cost, avoid student visa violations. What are those violations? Sometimes the violation, basically when you're working without authorization, or then maybe you're working more than 20 hours, maybe you haven't gotten your OPT, basically work authorization, and you are working. Those are violations. Another violation that's overlooked is the fact that you came, let's say you got admitted to a private university, and then you get here, you just transfer to a public university. That's a violation as well. And another violation is when you try to reinstate your visa. Maybe you took too long without reinstating, and then unlawful presence accrue. So that's another violations. And people usually, they don't know that. They just trying to do their best to work and survive. They're making more money. They're working a lot of hours. And especially if you haven't received any letters from USCIS, you think that everything that you're doing is fine. My friend, it is not fine, because the way they will get you, they're not going to get you now. Sometimes they'll get you, they send you a letter and stuff. But most of the time, they don't get you. They just wait for the right moment. And what is the moment? The moment you try to adjust your status. Let's say you're on an F1 visa, because we're talking about the first category right now. And then you want to get married. You apply for the green card based marriage. Remember, it has 3 forms: I-130, I-485, and I-864 for sponsorship. So most of the time the I-130 gets approved because you meet the requirement. The person is a US citizen, and of course they're gonna approve you easily. And then when it comes to the green card, okay, the I-485, that's when they start looking at eligibility. Basically, remember we talk about in order for you to either get admitted in the US or adjust your status, you have to be found eligible or admissible. So that's when they will see what's going on with you. If they find that student violation, that's when they will tell you that you are not admissible based on this type of violation. Okay? And some people find themselves like, it found them by surprise, like, really? I didn't violate anything. I'm going to school, I'm working. But my friend, if you're working more than 20 hours when you are not required to do so, if you're working maybe when your OPT is already over, those are violations, okay? And then they say you are not eligible, you are not admissible under 245A requirements, and now you find yourself stuck. You start looking for legal advice and try to find a way to actually waive that unlawful presence or waive that violation. Sometimes there is a way to waive it by applying for the form I-601, but sometimes they will require you to go outside of the US, and then you get a 5 years ban. Okay? Please avoid it. Please avoid those student violations. Student visa has a lot of restrictions to it. If you don't know what type of restrictions are attached to your student visa, please call my office, okay? 202-751-2180. And then you can also email me. Email is on display on this channel or in the description box below. So email me so we can schedule a consultation, and just please be advised, consultation fees apply. And some people will be emailing me and just asking random questions and questions after questions. And when I tell them that, okay, I have to provide you with a best advice, but I require consultation because there must be some type of formal agreement. Otherwise, there is a lot of liability that can be under those circumstances if I'm just giving you legal advice just like that randomly, okay? So those are the things that in my profession too I have to avoid. And on this channel as well, I have a disclaimer because I'm not liable because I have a disclaimer. But when you email me, there could be some liability. That's why I require a proper consultation, okay? Just be advised that I do charge consultation fees, okay? Let's move on. Let's talk about J1 or J2 visa. Those are exchanges programs, or people who actually get in the US under those type of visa. They are considered exchange students, or they are under some type of exchange programs. So if you want to avoid, basically you want to avoid a mistake, what you have to do, the moment you feel like you're gonna adjust a status, maybe you wanna upgrade from J1 to F1, there is a certain period of time window open for you to do that. If you miss it, unless you file for that 2 years waiver requirement, if you don't do that, you miss that problem, you become unlawful. In the US, your presence is actually unlawful, and later on in the process, if you file for a green card, maybe through your husband or a job or anything, you're not going to be eligible. You're not going to be admissible based on that first violation. They're going to always refer back. So you have to avoid it. And the way to avoid it is to really know the moment you get here on that visa. You have to know when you have to file for a different type of form. Because I have clients where they came on a J1 visa and they were supposed to file for the F1 visa to change or F2 visa. Basically, they came on a J2 and want to change to F2 because they're dependent of an F1 petitioner. Okay, so what's happening is that sometimes they miss that deadline, and now we have to file for the 2 years waiver requirement and try to waive that unlawful presence so that they can adjust their status. Avoid it by any means necessary. So there is a time frame that you have to apply within that time frame. Okay, if you miss it, then it becomes a problem. Then later on in the process, they are going to refer back to that unlawful presence, and then you are going to file again for a I-601 waiver, And sometimes it requires you to go outside of the United States in order to come back. And most people are not willing to do it because they have family here and the risk is so great. So just avoid it from the beginning, and then we are not going to get to that area, okay? Asylum seekers, when you get in the US and you intend to actually apply for asylum, please do it within 1 year of your presence in the US. And once you do it, you apply for asylum. The new law says that after 1 year, 360 days, then you can be eligible to apply for a work permit and you start working. So now say that you want to adjust your status later on in the process and your asylum hasn't been granted yet. Please, I've talked about it, do not cancel your asylum. Because the moment you cancel your asylum, there's a window there that you become unlawful present. So unlawful present in the US, and when you apply for that adjustment, you have to waive that temporary unlawful presence. But if you are under the asylum still pending, that has already covered that unlawful presence. So you basically are protected by that. Okay, even if you are not lawfully present, but you are protected by the asylum law. So because your case is still pending and now you're adjusting to a green card. So avoid canceling that asylum case. That's just what I want to say on the asylum seekers. Okay, file for asylum within 1 year. If you have an exception, then we can prove it. And then you can file after. I mean, if you didn't know and then you have an exception, then we can file after 1 year. But the exception really, you have your facts must fit the exception in order for that application to be accepted. Okay. Let's talk about B1 visa holders, visitors. When you get here with a visa, some people get here with a 2 years visa or visitor visa, but that requires you to go back after 6 months and come back because it's a multiple entry type of visa. Okay, but let's say in the meantime you want to adjust your status. So the moment your visa is still valid, that's the best time to adjust your status. Okay, lawful present in the US, then you can adjust your status. Let's say you want to get married, because that's I keep talking about it, family based, because that's the common one. Or let's say something else happened, you win a lottery, you can adjust as well when your visa is still valid. Okay, but once your visa gets expires, there is a presumption that you have accrued unlawful presence. So sometime it will require you to file for a waiver, temporary waiving that temporary unlawful presence, and then you can go back home and come back again, or maybe you can just waive it and stay here and adjust your status. It just depends, case by case basis. Okay, so the takeaway for that is that you just have to make sure that if you are planning to adjust your status, make sure that your visa is still valid on your passport. That's when you can really adjust your status, lawful presence. Okay, DV lottery winners, that's the last category. The DV lottery winners are people who find themselves, the one that I'm addressing in the subjects, are the people who find themselves already in the United States and then they win a lottery. What is going to happen is this: if you are under an asylum case pending, then you can adjust your status. There's no problem. You adjust your status because you won lottery, you follow the procedures, you adjust your status. If you are present as a F1 visa, you can also adjust your status because you are lawfully present in the US. But if that winning finds you here unlawfully, meaning you have nothing going on with USCIS, and now you want to claim that lottery that you won and adjust your status, my friend, you will be required to get outside because of your unlawful presence. And maybe you can file for a waiver and get approved and just stay and adjust your status here. But most of the time people are required to get outside of the United States, and then I pretty much file for a waiver and wait there until it gets approved so they can adjust their status, or they can do two consular processing like at the embassy and follow the regular steps. So that's why it's important, if you're in the United States, especially for new people who just came, you have to really look at your visa. What type of visa you have? What are the restrictions? What type of benefits can you apply when your visa is still valid? That's the catch. When your visa is still valid, that's when you can do all those things. But when your visa becomes invalid, it raises a lot of problems, a lot of questions, a lot of problems to be solved, and that's when things get really messy. Okay? In this video, I just really wanted to tell you those common mistakes that you really can avoid if you are on, and then it's gonna set you really on the right path for success. But if you already made those mistakes and you're trying to fix them, you can always contact us and we can assess your case and tell you if those mistakes are fixable or not. Okay? But again, consultation fees apply as usual. But that's what I wanted to tell you. So I don't have any update about those bills. Remember, April is around the corner. We're just waiting. You can just go on politico.com and follow along and see if there's any specific news about bills in the House or in the Senate. Or you can go to the Congress website. Again, you can really follow those bills and track them yourself as well. But if I have any major update, I'll make sure I come right here to let you know. Okay? Thank you for watching. That was Bijoux.ngwandaesq here, immigration lawyer in the DC metropolitan area, and this was U.S. immigration. Until next time, bye-bye. Ciao.